Hey guys, it's Ricer Boy, and today's going to be a huge work day. So today, we're hoping to install 4 brand new EBC Stage 20 brake rotors with Ultimax 2 pads, and a new driver's side axle shaft that does not leak and fling grease everywhere. Another thing to note is that Riceman and I got a major upgrade to our tool setup. We got this 265-piece Craftsman tool chest for just $190, discounted from $300. We got some Pittsburgh impact sockets. We got the Ryobi 1890 impact gun for only $130 with the battery. And even if you look in our tool chest drawers, as you can see, we have a lot of great tools here, including some original Craftsman post-war tools. So guys, one of our ongoing projects here on the channel is making this shop area as good as it can be. And honestly, I'm really excited for how it's going to turn out in the future. Stay tuned to see it happen. Well guys, something else that's good is I found the source of my AC troubles. As it turns out, my refrigerant's fine. The problem is that back there's that bastard little cable that famously pops out of a clamp. That means that when you move that temperature control knob right there, nothing fucking happens. So yeah, that's why my heat's stuck on. Thank you for engineering it like that, Nissan. So guys, I decided to spare the details of jacking up the car, but we have both of the front wheels off. And we're ready to replace the driver's side CV axle and also take care of these old brakes. First thing to remove is the slide pin bolt up here for the brake caliper. So this bolt's a 14 millimeter. Should be pretty easy to get out. Once you get it out right there, caliper should be one step closer to being able to open. Now just take care of the one on the bottom. So as you can see, I put the top one back in to stabilize the lower one while taking it out. And now, with both of them out, as you can see, this middle part of the brake caliper should just slide off, which gives you access to your brake pads. There you go. Now you don't want to have this brake caliper hang from the brake line, so have a friend help you out by hanging it on something solid like this. Should look like that. And now with that caliper out of the way, you can just grab your old pads and slide them out like that. So now if you're replacing an axle shaft, you need to take off the rest of the brake caliper. And as you can see, there's a bolt right here that's a 17 millimeter that you need to take off. One on the top, one on the bottom, and the rest of the caliper can come off. So actually those bolts that keep the caliper on are a 19 millimeter. So get your breaker bar, start working on them. So now with those two 19 millimeter bolts out, we can just take this cover out. And now I just have the bare brake rotor. So if you're removing your axle shaft, next thing you have to do is take out that cotter pin right there in front of the axle nut. Come on, you little pin, come on! Alright guys, I think I might finally have this cotter pin. There we go. That's nice. That's your cotter pin. Now let's hammer this brake rotor off of the rusty hub. And a lot of hammering later, there's your brake rotor. So the next thing, guys, is the axle nut, which is this gigantic nut right here. Now, it's a 32 millimeter, and I highly suggest using an impact or investing in one. Here we go. So now we have some WD-40 on there. Give it another shot. So since we have to keep waiting on that axle nut, guys, let's start putting the rotor and the new equipment on the passenger side wheel. So here, got our new EBC Stage 20 rotor. Let's put it on. That fits perfect. So now that you have your new rotor on, something you're going to want to do is with this bracket right here, you're going to have to pull out these pins that fit in these holes right here. So just pull out the pin separate from the boot. As you're going to see, there's some lubricant on there. Now you're going to want to make sure that you got some new caliper lubricant with your brakes, because you're going to clean these off and put some new lubricant on them. Another thing that you shouldn't forget is that each one of these pins goes into a specific part of that bracket, so don't forget which one goes where. So now with both of your pins completely clean, just nip the corner off of your lubricant packet and just make a small line down the bolt, just like this. Then do it for the other one. There you go. You want to make sure to leave enough for the other two slider pins on the other side of the car. So, after you've spread the lubricant around with your fingers, getting them to look like this, put the slider pins back into their correct holes. You also might want to put the paper towel inside the boots to clean them up a bit of the old grease. Just push these all the way in. Now don't forget to do the same thing with the other caliper bracket. So if you're done lubricating your slide pins, the next thing you want to do is you want to go over to your brake caliper and turn it around so that way you see this circular piston. Now you're going to have to compress that if you're going to want to put in new brake pads. So you get a piece of wood like this and you stick it in front of the piston, and you get a C-clamp like this one, put the back of it around the back of the caliper, and you twist it down to compress the piston. No, I can't do it here because I don't have enough hands, but I hope that you get the picture that you're supposed to press the piston all the way down. So now that your piston is compressed as far as it can go, you get a paper towel and just clean off the ring of the piston to get off any contaminants that might get onto your new brakes. Now this is the step where your caliper covers go back on, which were the pieces that the slide pins go into. Alright guys, an update. I've gotten this axle nut to move. It's just a very slow process. Let's go for it. And that there is your axle nut. Yay. So now is the last thing we're going to do for tonight. We're going to remove the 17mm bolts that hold in the strut to the hub. So now, with the nut off of the other end, we can take these out the happy way. There's the top one. There's the bottom one. Now we'll just tug them out. Okay guys, now that we finally got those pesky and dirty bolts out right here, we have a good setup for the work tomorrow for getting that old axle out. So guys, it's the next day, and I did something preemptive in order to help with the brake work. And at least with the kit that I got, it came with these shims, which are like these stickers that go on the back of the pad so that when the piston hits it, it doesn't make any metal noises or clanging or scraping noises. So as you can see, I've already applied the sticker to make it easier and quicker for us to install them later on today. So now, refocusing on the CV axle a little bit, we're going to require a specialty tool. So currently our CV axle is stuck in the hub, and there is one good way to get it out, with brute force. Now this is a little bit unrefined, and if you don't put the axle nut on the end of it, you will smash the threads in the old CV axle. So if you're not going to reuse yours like me, it's probably not that much of a worry to you to crush the threads, but just beware that this will definitely damage what's left of it. Now that right there was just the right amount of force that we needed, where you can now push this out, even with just your fingers. So, let's just get this old axle out and put the new one in. So if you're at the stage where you can move the axle back and forth through the hub with your hands like this, you actually want to get a little bit more precise. So we have a slightly smaller hammer. Hammer it this way. Pull that out. Hammer it down. Got it out of the hub. So now, let's pull it out of the tranny. Or not. Oh, there it is. Holy shit, that's a lot of gear. So here you can see my old axle shaft compared to my new one. The old one was pretty bad and it also leaked a lot. Something critical that I should probably have said earlier is you need to make sure that when you get an axle shaft, it is for the appropriate transmission, manual or automatic, or that it's made for your car with the ABS, because ABS axle shafts are different from ones that are made for cars without ABS. Let's put the new axle shaft in. Transmission side goes in first. Now for this step, something critical for reinstalling the new shaft into the transmission is that for this ring right here, you want to make sure that this open section right here is facing downwards towards the ground. Otherwise, this will not go in and you will have a very tough time. Now, once the shaft is in, it should go all the way up to here. You should not be able to see anything in this area when it's fully installed. Gotta hold your paper towel somehow. Now I just have to put the new axle back in the hub. You just twist it to the side like this. Put it in the hole, and then just wiggle it in until it finds its way. So we've got the new axle into the hub. A little cheat code if you haven't done it already is to straighten out the steering wheel. And we have the axle nut on, but it's not torqued. We just hand threaded it on there, just so that way we can torque it tomorrow. That's torqued to 150 pound-feet. However, we did torque the two bolts that attach the steering knuckle to the strut, and both of those are torqued to 100 pound-feet. I think that ought to do it for today's work. So guys, it's the next day, and we are back on brakes. And if your rotors have been sitting for a while like mine have, you will definitely want to wipe them down with a cloth like this, because any of these particulates on your brakes are not good when burned off. So next thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to put some more caliper lubricant on the clips that your brake pads slot into. This should reduce any squealing or grinding noises. And you should just put enough on there that you can spread it around with your fingers. Just put it along the length of the clip so that way the caliper remains in contact with soft stuff instead of the raw metal. So just use your finger to put lubricant on all of those little clips, just like that. So now, you just put your brake pads in the caliper cover with the shim side facing outwards. So then just gently slide it in like this into the clips until it sits there like that. Then just do the other one the same way. Your final product should look like that. So now, with your slide pins facing backwards, like this, you need to sandwich the roller between the two pad surfaces. Just put it on like this. Then, you put the caliper to steering knuckle bolts back on, which are the 19mm ones, and you torque both of those to 65 pound-feet. So now, if you've gotten up to this point, your brake should be looking like this. Got those two 19mm bolts back there. Looking good. Now, something I haven't talked too much about is that if you're doing the CV axle and you're putting on your axle nut, that is not only torqued to 150 pound-feet, but if you want to make it a lot easier on yourself, shift the car into first gear and then just go at it with your torque wrench. Now we're torquing the 19mm caliper bolts to 65 pound-feet each. So now with your caliper piston compressed, you're going to need to put in the slide pin bolts, which are torqued to 20 pound-feet each. So now, after lining up your slide pins with the grooves in the calipers, just hand thread in those bolts, then you torque them down to 20 pound-feet each. And also, just to save you some frustration, the slide pin bolts are 14mm if you forgot. So then after you torque all those bolts down, you should be done with your brakes. So guys, even though we have the wheel back on and we can't show you this trick, An important hack for putting on the axle shaft, or at least your axle nut, is to have a friend in the car holding on the brakes while another person tightens it to the 150 pound-feet limit. Because it's a lot of force that needs to be applied, and getting the brakes done first means that you can lock the axle in place while the axle nut is tightened. So guys, that's how you replace an axle and some front brakes on a Sentra. I hope this video was helpful, so thanks for watching, and peace out.